Dr. Mew, thank you for agreeing to join me on JawHacks to discuss your situation. I've been seeing some of your recent posts, and I know there's a lot happening on your end in terms of some crazy lawsuit that's been waged against you, some type of, you know, it's almost like a kind of information warfare that they're levying against you. And I can see that it's put you at a great amount of distress. The purpose of this chat is so that you can inform my audience about what's happening to you, let us know how we can help and support you, because Lord knows that without you, none of us would even be here. There would be no mewing for us to even talk about. So, and I can just tell you that every video of mine that has the word mew in it, like if I have a video titled something mewing or mewing this, mewing that, that video gets 3 times the engagement that any other video I post does. So, you know, you and your family are really at the core of this whole sphere, this whole corner of the internet. And so, you know, we want to be here for you. Why don't you begin by just, you know, telling us what's going on? Give us a little background, and let us know, you know, how you're doing.
Okay, so this is having a massive impact on my life. It's crazy when you go through lists of allegations written by big important people, and how when I'm discussing it with my lawyers and there's this sentence I said, and we're going through the what I said, and that's what you do in a law court, how that makes you question everything, and it really fundamentally affects your whole being. I just find it difficult to make simple everyday decisions now, because I'm quite cross-questioning whether I should put on, you know, shorts or trousers, you know, simple things like that, because, and it just, I can't continue to be innovative and dynamic and do all of the things when you're under these situations. And this has been going on for nearly 5 years now. So the last year or so, you'll notice my output's been down. I'm not having ideas. I'm not progressing, because it you know, and I would say I'm almost certainly clinically depressed. But because I'm on a mission, it doesn't seem to affect me in the same way. I'm not the depressive type person anyway. So, and because I'm on this mission to make the world a better place and find the answers, it doesn't affect me as I think it probably would if I wasn't on this mission. Yeah. I can't tell you a lot about the case because you're not allowed to. I wanted to go and say lots about the case. What I can say is that this is almost purely philosophical. So it relates to 2 patients, and it relates to some allegations that the British Orthodontics Society made against my YouTube channel. So that's the very lightest level, if I can say. So 2 patients, but we're not suggesting any real damage has happened to these patients. What we're saying here is that there's a philosophical argument really as to whether I should have ever treated the patients and whether the treatment method that I have has any validity. Not, you know, we're not saying it's not a mild thing. They are going for my treatment method. They're saying that what I'm doing is completely wrong. Basically, I'm a charlatan. That's the crux of this court case. You know, and if they take me out, then it's, because it's a philosophical thing, it takes out every other practitioner doing anything that's similar to what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Am I able to probe into the specific philosophy of yours that they are challenging? So is it the idea? Is it the idea that a person who has what to me would be clearly underdeveloped jaws, is it the idea that you're basically taking someone like that and expanding them under the premise that this is going to improve their airway and their health and any symptoms that are associated with those underdeveloped jaws? And the people that are suing you are saying there's nothing wrong with these jaws. These people don't need to be expanded.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm not being sued by someone. This is my regulator. So to be a licensed dentist, I need to have a license to work in the country. Now, that is regulated by the General Dental Council. So the General Dental Council has got some reports about me, and they are following up on these reports. The first thing they'll do is ask an orthodontist to give an opinion, and the orthodontist gave he couldn't have given a more, this guy is a charlatan type opinion. My legal team think this is the biggest report they have ever seen by a long way. This he's really gone to town. I can tell I've ticked him off. I can tell what I'm saying here has really, really annoyed him. And he's gone to the nth degree to make this thesis against me, where he brings about, and the thesis, and I can say this, it basically, he's saying that malocclusion is genetic. That's it. There's nothing you can do to change it. And he really has laid it on thick. Then they've got a surgeon as well, and the surgeon. So I have two expert witnesses against me, and the surgeon's come on board, and he's more or less agreed. They're saying, look, from his perspective, you can't change growth; you need to do surgery. And from the orthodontist perspective, it's genetic. You can't expand arches per se. You have to take teeth out, and it's all about how you would treat a case. And we've got two cases. Both of those cases, they're saying that I should have never have done the treatment. I shouldn't have attempted to done the treatment because I couldn't gain change in the structure. It's impossible to change the structure. Why should I ever say we could? And that's the crux of it.
Now, me in the United States, I'm surrounded by providers who are doing expansion in all sorts of cases.
Yep.
We have tooth-borne expanders. We have nasomaxillary expanders like the MSE. We have all sorts of expanders that American orthodontists are using to take people of all ages, young, middle, and older, and expanding them. So it seems, at least on my side of the Atlantic, that what I'm getting at, is this a British issue? Is this a standard of care that exists only in the UK, or is this a worldwide issue?
To be honest, when you think about the fact that so many people use, as you say, expansion, and are you familiar, Ron, with functional appliances for use in kids? I know it's not your area.
What do you mean by that?
Functional appliances that, if someone's got the jaw set back, the idea with functional appliances is that when you've got a functional appliance in your mouth, the only place, as you bite together, it makes you bite into a forward position. So that whenever you function with your jaw in a forward position, and over time that should make the jaw be in that position. A lot of people say it grows the jaw. I don't actually think it does grow the jaw. I think it's a little bit more complex than that. And that's what we're hitting here, because this debate between the functional people and the conventional people have been going on for ages. And what I'm saying is something that's actually quite different. And when you look at the argument presented by this orthodontic expert, he's not really, I don't think he understands my argument yet. He's refuting the standard argument, saying you basically can't make the jaw any longer. You can't lengthen this jaw. And I'm saying, well, it's not that simple. There's a lot of bones between the top jaw and the bottom jaw. If each of them moves a little bit, you can change that relationship. You don't just need to make this jaw longer. But that's an old argument between functional people and non-functionalists, and that goes back to the argument of whether it's genetic or whether it's environment. And what really kind of ticks me off the most is that I wrote an editorial in the British Dental Journal in 2009 called The Black Swan. When I wrote that article, I then challenged the British orthodontists to a debate on why teeth are crooked. I said, look, we're treating at least a third, it probably, in some areas, Ron, I reckon it's about 80% of people, kids, young growing children, get braces of some description, whether that be fixed braces, whether that be Invisalign, whatever it is. But we're talking a majority of the population are getting these fixed braces of some description. And I said, well, the orthodontic speciality openly admits that they have no real idea what the cause of these are. And I'm saying, well, that doesn't make sense to me. Why are we treating so many people with... Because orthodontics is so common, I think we forget that it's quite interventive. You know, it's a big thing to have all these things. You break your teeth wide up or bits of plastic over your teeth. And why are we doing this when we openly admit, well, they openly admit they don't know the cause, and then they're not happy to engage in a debate? So I then wrote to the British Orthodontic Society numerous times, I think about 30 emails backwards and forwards. I wrote to the All-Party Dental Committee, so that's part of, you know, the Parliament that deals with dentistry. I wrote to the Minister of Health. I wrote to the General Dental Council. So the body that's hearing me, I wrote to 4 separate chairs, and I said, look, on your mission statement, you say protecting patients, regulating the profession. Well, my understanding of protecting the patients would be that you'd have a debate on why teeth were crooked, because you want to check that you're doing the right thing, because medicine's about treating the cause of the problem. So I have criticisms of the people that are trying me, as if why they didn't listen to this campaign. About 5 years I had a letter writing campaign. I wrote to everyone. No one was interested. They just passed the buck. And I'm going, well, you know, science, medicine's about treating the cause of the problem. If you don't know the cause of the problem, you don't really understand the problem. And you should find out, okay, fine, you're treating this large percentage of the population with this quite interventive method. Well, then it should be your duty to try and fill in the gaps in your information as quickly and as effectively and as you possibly can. That's the nature of being a doctor.
Of course, and I think, yes, continue.
Well, I just think that it's had the General Dental Council had that debate, had they followed the scientific process. Look, I'm not asking for any more than the scientific process. Had they done that then, I wouldn't be here. No, there's no question whether or not I would be here. This case would have never happened if they'd had that debate, because the science is clear and obvious.
Now, Mike, to you it's obvious, to me it's obvious, to a whole army of 15 to 25-year-olds who have never been to dental school, who watch my channel and your channel, it's obvious. What is going on with this group that's suing, that's challenging you or admonishing you? Where is the disconnect here? Is there some sort of ulterior motive? Do you somehow threaten some status quo that they're invested in? Because surely it's not a lack of intelligence, Mike. It's got to be something else.
It's interesting. You look at something like the Spanish Inquisition, and you look at the fact that they had, clever, right-minded people decided to follow this path of extinction of another group of people, and you sort of wonder, well, why did they do that? I guess you had religious beliefs at the time, and I think this comes down to is a belief system. You want to protect what you believe in, and people call about this cognitive dissonance. You're taught something at school. You can modify that as long as it's going in the same direction. But these people are not going to turn around and come back on themselves. And one of the big problems, and I've said this many times before, who makes money, a dietitian or a liposurgeon? One drives a Ferrari, the other rides a bicycle. And who's doing the real health benefit? Well, the dietitian, clearly. And that's an inherent problem with medicine. That this, you don't get paid well for prevention. You don't get paid well for trying to change people. Because we're saying this is the environment. What we're saying this is the two principal things. It's the muscle effect. I try not to drill down further because I don't know what it is, whether it's time, whether it's the strength of muscles, whether it's impulse rate. We don't know, but there's something with the muscle effect. Then there's something with the posture, tongue on the roof of the mouth, lips together, also your head posture. So it's this mixture between posture of this area and the muscle effect. So we know those two things are really important, okay? They're hard to change because in a way they are you, and changing you is a difficult thing to do. But it's not new. The whole treatment of what I'm saying, mewing could be summed up with stand up straight and shut your mouth. Mm-hmm. Craniofacial dystrophy could be summed up with shut your mouth or the wind will change and your face will set like that. Which my mother used to say, it's an old wives' tale. They're all, none of this is new. And that's, in a way, why it's so shocking that there's such a reaction to what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now, do you think if you had never been such a public face and if you had never become a YouTube legend with your ideas that have, quite frankly, lifted so many young people up out of despair of going down this path of, having an abnormal face, do you think if you had just shut up and did your thing quietly in your clinic, treated people the way your dad had always treated people, but did it quietly, would you have been spared the gauntlet?
For the allegations from the British Orthodontics Society, with no question. I mean, they went through my YouTube channel and they found out parts and referred me on that. So the British Orthodontics Society did a fishing expedition, and they did that on purpose because I was clearly annoying them. And the fact that the letter of the initial allegations, the initial letter from the British Orthodontic Society, basically saying, look, I won't go into it too much, but they told me of what they were doing, and they said their issues. They told me of their issues, and they reported me directly to the General Dental Council. So there was no, we're a little bit concerned about this. Can you come in for chat? And we can have it was no, in the harshest possible terms, we are referring you to the General Dental Council, and we expect you to fry. Mm-hmm. And we're suspending you from the British Orthodontic Society with immediate effect. So it was an open, straight letter. And it came in, I can't remember the exact date, but it was like the week or two after the British Orthodontic Society conference. So I would be highly suspicious that they met at the conference and they thought, right, okay, what are we going to do about this chap? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the other allegations, I certainly think this hasn't helped. One of the patients would have never even have come to me if it hadn't been for my profile. And I wish I could say more about these cases because, I wish I could.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I don't want you to, because
I what I would love to show is just demonstrate to you how innocent I am in most of this, in my opinion. But I can't, because I've been told I'm not allowed to.
Well, Mike, I don't think anyone who's going to be watching this interview is going to have any question who's in the right here. So
I know.
There's nothing you need to prove to my audience. I can assure you of that.
But Ron, this is the thing, that when someone starts accusing you of things, and when it's so big, I mean, this is just so monumentally massive in my life, it's really difficult to describe to people how much something like this affects you. We were going to buy a house, and I've taken the deposit plus some for that house, and I've blown it on this court case. And I've heard you say close to £300,000 you spent in legal fees and other. It's going to be more. It'll be more. So it'll be, I reckon, by the time. And that doesn't account for the fact, when I go back, Ron, I decided to go down this path in around 2010, 2011. I got together with my current wife, and she was I mean, she's such a good girl, you know, she really is. And I said, look, this is what I want to do. And she knew my father. I said, I want to move down to Purley. I want to focus on trying to get this treatment going. And I had some money in the bank. And I said, we're going to have to use that because we'd sold the house I lived in. And I blew that on just keeping myself going while I built the clinic. Because the clinic was running at 1 day a week. We didn't really have referrals. We got the odd patient. You know, people heard about us and came to see us, and everyone was a disaster case, and everything was really hard work. So we started marketing, and we started pumping stuff out, and it was at the point someone told me to go onto YouTube. The rest of that is history. But I worked for a decade. I worked for this decade. My mother died during that. She left an inheritance, so that was another. You know, she was from a good family. That was over £80,000. I blew that. Best part of £100,000 I started with, I blew that.
Building your practice.
Building my practice. Well, yes, building the practice. You know, but unfortunately, again, I don't make money from this practice. One of the real challenges I have, you know, none of my staff get paid. Well, no, the lower level staff all get paid reasonably well, but I skimp myself. And my right hand man, or my right hand woman actually, she could make so much better money. She's here because of the clinic. You know, I can't afford to keep these people. I can't afford to spend the money on the research. I don't have the time. When you're working so many hours and so hard, you don't have the spectrum and the bandwidth to do all the research I would like to do. And hell, this is going to take some money. To the research that we need to do to move this forward. You know, I want to raise money, and I wanted people to help me. I want to raise money, not really so much for this court case. The money is I've got to move forwards. We need research I need to make a loud noise right now because I think that would be valuable, because this is a crazy situation and it will raise the profile of this situation. And that raises the profile of this disconnect we've got, where everyone thinks the way your face grows is genetic. And it reminds me, Ron, I'll go back a little bit, because you asked me that question of why the orthodontists are skeptical about what I'm saying. With all the evidence is there, and they're so skeptical.
It seems common sense. It's not only there's not only evidence, but it's common sense.
Yeah, but then you've got the same thing with the population of the planet. The population of the planet want to believe that the way your teeth, well, not so much the teeth, salt the teeth. They want to believe that the way your face grew, or their face grew, was genetic. You know, that image that people look into in the mirror, it looks back on any mirror in the world, that's you. When someone stops you and shows you ID, you're going to get out something with a photograph on it, and they're going to look at the photograph. That then essentially is your ID. And for me to be telling you that that's not set in stone is... people don't want to believe that.
It gives people too much responsibility, more than they're comfortable with.
Yeah, it takes them out of their comfort zone. Very exactly. And people don't like coming out their comfort zone. So, you know, yes, we could say to orthodontists, why didn't you suss that? But in a way, it's not just the orthodontists, it's the general public. Mm-hmm. And we've got to get the general public thinking this. And to get the general public thinking this, we've got to get the message out there. And when years ago, you know, as I was starting to put stuff out on Facebook and YouTube, and I was trying to work social media, I realized that the answer was to change the attitude of everyone on the world, because you can't really shortcut that. You know, there's going to be that global aha moment when people suddenly realize that, hey, those Mews were right. And then it's going to swap, and we're going to go from being the, you know, I'm the antichrist of orthodontics at the moment. I'm the known charlatan. To, you know, I would say, two respected scientists. You know, we're suddenly going to become respected scientists. I mean, you know, I don't want to be lauded too much because it's really bad for you, Ron. But I think we'll go to the point where at least then I can make headway. Then I can say, let's get some research funding coming in, and I'll get millions coming in, because I need millions. It can't be me and Dad trying to develop something. It's got to be...
Mike, what about that book Jaws that Sandra Kahn did? Isn't that book essentially a book of evidence to support mewing?
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
why,
the whole book.
Why can't you present that to the council that's
because it's
scolding you?
It's not direct evidence. Okay, so what you need is direct objective evidence. What they want to do, so God, I can't talk about the case. What can I say? I've made certain statements. I've made statements on paper on the things I believe in. And I need to validate those statements. And they don't want me to say, well, these are consistent with craniofacial dystrophy, and that's the same as JAWS, and that's supported by these papers. What they want is they want a line on a piece of paper that fits with the statement I've made. That's what they want. And that's what they refer to as objective clinical evidence. Now, the problem here is that we're a new science. We've not been around a while, but I mean, all the doors to the ivory tower have been slammed shut in our face.
Yeah, you're a persona non grata.
A persona non grata. I mean, we can't
excommunicado.
Yeah, I mean, it took Dad, I think, 20 years. I think 22 years was the longest he ever had to publish one article. And the same article went in, what had happened, the world had moved on. And we don't get to present at universities. We don't get to talk in conferences or lectures. We get laughed at in lectures. I've been to lectures literally where the conversation is what a fool my father is, and we never get to lecture back. It's like this one-way narrative where we're judged in absentia. It's not science. I don't think when I talk to people, I remember. Ron, I went to a lecture at a local postgraduate evening. So what they have is lots of the local hospitals have a postgraduate centre. They'll have a lecture theatre. Once a month, the dentists will organise a lecture. They'll get a speaker in. They'll get the local dentists in. This is continuing professional development. I went to a lecture. Guy was saying some really radical things. And this guy is the dean of the biggest teaching hospital. He's the dean of the academic syllabus at the biggest dental teaching hospital in the UK. They qualify 25% of the dentists in the UK, and he's in charge of the syllabus. He decides what goes into that syllabus. So at the end of the lecture, and he wanted to make a controversial lecture, at the end I went up and said to him, "Dear so-and-so, is there much evidence to support some of the claims?" And I mentioned a few of the claims. He does this sort of, he wanted to look studious and, come back with a well thought out answer. And he thought he'd make a little quib, a little joke. And he said, well, we don't even have the evidence to disprove John Mew. So here's someone who, he's the guy choosing what goes in the syllabus. And he's using my father as the benchmark of bad science. And yet, no one has ever proved him wrong. Ever. He's never had a meaningful scientific engagement with anyone. I've never had a meaningful scientific engagement out there. Any professor on the planet that wants to engage with me in orthodontics or inside specialty, I'm here. I'm ready.
It's almost like our scientific system has gotten corrupted to the point where the system is rejecting common sense. The standard for what they call research or peer-reviewed studies has gotten so stringent or wrapped up in red tape that it's missing the forest for the trees, and common sense ideas are rejected because they're not meeting this arbitrary standard that the community has created for itself. And it's it is a coherent system, but it's a nonsensical system that doesn't allow certain basic ideas, like the idea that environmental factors may or may not contribute to facial development. It doesn't let common sense flourish right?
It's because so you've got to look back on the history of orthodontics. Orthodontics started at the turn of the 1900s, where malocclusion was becoming more prevalent. People were getting crooked teeth. It was possible to straighten those teeth. People were willing to pay for that service, and an industry was born. And it was that simple, because it worked. You could make teeth straight. You had appliances to do that. And they kind of expected to backfill the science later. And when we all started talking about being evidence-based, well, they did lots of evidence in orthodontics. They do, papers on, which is the best method to turn a tooth, how turn a tooth round, how fast is that, what the threshold for tooth movement is. Endless papers. Whether you can glue to a tooth, which is the best glue to a tooth. That's science, and that can fill up textbooks. And there's the plethora of different methods to align teeth up. I mean, I think that more or less says it, because I'm saying you're treating a symptom, and that's what you would expect. If you're treating symptoms, there's lots of different ways to treat the symptoms, and as long as the teeth end up straight, everyone's happy in orthodontics. The fact that you have to retain them forever, or the fact that you've usually only got 28 teeth or less, is just overlooked. And the fact that you may, if the orthodontics is retractive, damage the face, so you're damaging the underlying problem while correcting the symptoms, well, it's overlooked, because people don't want to hear this. People don't want to hear that they could be damaging people's facial structure, and of course not only making the face look less attractive, but damaging the health, like increasing sleep apnea, which is bad news. You don't want to be. Yeah. Okay.
This is such an important part of science, though, in the social progress, is the ability to look back at decades of bad things that we've all done as a society, and then decide that, okay, we're not going to do them anymore because now we understand that what we were doing is wrong. For example, there was 100 years where tobacco use was commonplace and was supported by the evidence and supported by big business, big government. And then at some point, people decided, you know what, we were wrong about that. And we have to change that now. And yes, our fathers and our grandfathers screwed up a lot of people by pushing cigarettes onto them. But we have to let that go, and we have to start fresh. Orthodontics needs to do that with this whole, and you don't have to agree or disagree with what I'm about to say, but with this whole extract and retract business. It's time to let that be a vestige of the past, and to not be afraid to look at the evidence that was wrong, that we had all participated in that.
Yeah, I'm going to modify this extract, because you can retract without extracting.
Okay.
A lot of orthodontics can retract without extracting. So it's not just the extractions. And this is where I constantly, a lot of people go on about the extraction. It's not the extractions. Ron, we've done the etiology. The single biggest important is this muscle effect. Now, I remember going down to have dinner with my my uncle, and he was in a shoot, so he would shoot pheasants, and with buckshot. And I remember we ate a pheasant, and I'm chewing away, and I got something between my teeth, and it was a little bit of buckshot. And the whole, you've got this symphony of tooth movement. I mean, incredible. The teeth miss each other by fractions of a millimeter, moving relatively quickly, and with a lot of force. This is a real symphony going on, and you get a piece of shot pellet in the middle, and what it does is it overloads the threshold of one tooth. That sends a feedback mechanism, and the chewing process stops like that. It's like when you press stop the press, and this massive machine stops on an instant. Now, if you put fixed braces on someone, however brilliant you are, within a couple of days, as the teeth move, you're going to be biting in a couple of places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places, I don't know, but a few places. So all of a sudden, you're switching off these muscles because you'll exceed the threshold in a couple of places in the mouth. So you just don't chew and you don't bite. So for the entire duration where your teeth aren't meeting together well, you're switching off the muscles. So the most important factor is being damaged by interfering with the positions of the teeth. Now, in a way, we all do that. Even when I widen the jaws, I widen the top, fasten the bottom. There's many different ways to do this thing. But as soon as what I refer to, you break the buccal segments, buccal sides, because the buccinator muscle. So as soon as you break the buccal segment, so that segment on the side, as soon as it gets upset in the way it bites together, you're affecting the muscle effect, and you are probably influencing the face to downswing. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if you take teeth out. I mean, it's irrelevant of taking teeth out. That process happens anyway. Now, if you do take teeth out and you reduce the tongue volume, then you will further complicate the problem. But a lot of people who are so crowded that when you take out 2 or 4 teeth, it actually is not making a lot of difference to the tongue volume.
Because those teeth might be stacked with other teeth.
Exactly.
You know, they might be inside the other teeth.
Exactly. And so you've got so much crowding that when you look at the net space against the net width of all the teeth, you can say, oh, well, actually, I still need to expand this person a little bit just to fit in 28 or 24 teeth. However, there's 2 different points. There's the reduction in the what I refer to as the vital space. So that's the teeth and the airway, and the tongue, and then there's the reduction in the muscle effect. Again, I don't want to label it too much because, you know, what I find this has always been the way. If you have a great thesis and you'll make one little mistake, because one little definition, and people will jump on that mistake and they'll say the whole thesis was wrong because, you know, because they want to find fault. Because what I'm suggesting is a profession back turn, go in the reverse direction, make no money, and admit that maybe they've caused some problems.
Now, in most American universities, we have evolutionary biologists who do things like studying how the proper gait is for humans to run. And they look at traditional peoples in tribes in various parts of the world, for example, perhaps Australian Aborigines, and they say, okay, these people are barefoot the way that we were when we were evolving. They run like this. They have no back pain, no knee pain, and they can run tremendous distances without injury. Why don't we study that, and as part of our larger framework of human evolution, try to understand the way that we evolved to do a certain thing, like run? Or there's a whole field now of evolutionary psychology. Why can't someone just apply evolutionary physiology or psychology or this whole evolutionary idea, which Daniel Dennett calls the acidic idea, because once you start thinking in terms of evolution, it just permeates your whole worldview because everything starts to make sense. Why can't people take an evolutionary perspective to facial structure and realize that all that Mike and John Mew are doing is doing evolutionary physiology on the face?
Well, I mean, we are. I mean, I present at the Ancestral Health Symposium this year. I've presented several times before. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen my lectures there. And it's caused, when I started, so I went and I presented in the Ancestral Health Symposium with Kevin Boyd. So if you Google Mike Mew, Kevin Boyd, it was at UCLA Ancestral Health Symposium, I think 2011. You've got a lecture. And we were in the little room at the back, and you blinked, you'd missed us. We got a half-hour slot for the 2 of us, so 15 minutes each, right at the back. No one, no attention. And at the last meeting, we were the key players. So we've gently worked our way up through this. It's been a decade. We've worked ourselves up through this. This group, and this group's taking us very seriously. But how do I get that information into the court? How could because they want, they want this evidence that, that evidence that they want is the sort of thing that happens down the line in a new science. It's not the thing you have initially in a new science. That's the whole point of a new science. You've got something new and interesting. I mean, okay, we've been doing. I mean, I was an early patient for my father, and I'm in my early 50s. So it's not totally new, but it's never had those millions of pounds of investment that it needs. I mean, for Christ's sake, if I'm correct, Ron, this is the biggest disease that nearly everyone in the developed world has, and is causing the most problems those people have, and they've never heard of it.
Yeah, I'm afraid that you guys are just too early.
Yeah.
Right now, you're Galileo when he was, excommunicated, and they're threatening to burn him at the stake. I'm sure 100 years from now, you'll be what Galileo is now, which is essentially, the embodiment of the scientific method, and a historical role model for everyone who's interested in science and progress.
Yeah, but even I've been trying to get a letter published in the British Dental Association, and it's quite clear. So I wanted an editorial, I wanted some big space. I had like a couple of thousand words I wanted to say, and they've said, I pushed them. They said, you can have a letter for 500 words, and I'm thinking, you clearly don't believe a word I'm saying. And it's just, I'm just saying, all I'm saying is, listen, I'm trying to push the scientific process. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm saying, let's have a debate on why teeth are crooked. Isn't that a good idea? Because I needed to have a central focus. I always, when I went to Denmark to do my orthodontic training. The last place I wanted to do it was England. And Denmark, for growth and development, it's the best orthodontic program on the planet. It's probably it was probably one of the top 5 programs anyway. So I went to a top tier program, but I wanted to be out of the UK. And when I worked my backside off. It was a tough course, but the flaw I noticed in everything was etiology. Is the cause. If you don't understand the cause, you don't understand what's happening. And there were so many bits of the dogma I feel we were being given, and I'd make a comment in the seminars. I'd say, oh, by the way, but that's not, he selected his results. He's selected his research, and people would all look at me, and they'd clearly never thought of this. For example, orthodontists base the way teeth bite together. So if I show you sort of the perfect model, or this isn't actually a perfect model, but this is a good case. It was pretty good case I did, but the facial change was extreme. So here we go. Here the way the teeth bite together. If you look closely, there's a little gap there. So it's not perfect. But a guy called Andrews created the benchmark of what orthodontists work towards. And if you look him up, it's Andrews 6 keys. And this is the benchmark of how teeth should be. Okay? Now, Andrews, and I think but mainly Andrews, selected the cases that he compiled to make this concept. So, really, this gold standard that the orthodontists worked towards was a selected standard. It looks nothing like how ancestral teeth bite together. And it only has 28 teeth. There's no 32 teeth there. And, the teeth aren't worn. They've created the standards by which they base their research and everything else.
Yeah, shit in, shit out. It's the wrong standard for what health looks like. And so once you have bad ingredients, you can't have a bad cake come out the other, a good cake come out the other end.
If your foundation stones are in the wrong place, you're up that creek without a paddle.
Exactly. And this is an issue all throughout Western medicine. It almost seems like, Mike, with your interest in etiology and with understanding the cause of illness, that's a much more Eastern thing. And it's, tragically absent in Western medicine. Tragically.
Yes. I think we need, I would like to go on from here and have an impact on all of that, to be honest, Ron. You know, you give me the power, you give me the opportunity, and I would like to take a bulldozer to the whole thing. You know, once you've gone as far down the rabbit hole as I've gone, I'm not going to stop here. Yeah. You know, I want the truth. I want the truth in this little corner. But this little corner is so much bigger than what most people think. You know, people go, oh, it's only crooked teeth. No, mate, this is, I think, the biggest health issue facing humanity. It permeates the body. And once you've got that under your belt, well, hang around. Well, what about that? And what about that? And what about all these other things? Because you just need a good dose of the truth. And once you get going, right, why stop? I mean, I don't know if I'll get murdered at some point, but they get assassinated for my meddling, because I'm going to upset big people and a lot of big money things.
Well, you're already doing that now, and they are trying to character assassinate you.
Yes.
They are murdering you in a sense. And Mike, they've already been to some degree effective, and I'd like to see this get turned around. But you yourself have already said that you've begun self-censoring your own thinking out of
I've been self-censoring for so long. Yeah. I mean, there's so much more I want to say. I mean, I'm just scraping the surface, but also, you start losing faith in yourself when these go on. I mean, this is incredibly caustic to me and my identity, and you know, I literally, there's times I want to give the whole thing up and just run away. You know, take the last little bit of money I haven't paid the lawyers yet, run off with that, and because you know, if they stop me, the likely outcomes of this is I get let off, no sanctions. I lose my license and that's it. Or the middle ground where they sanction you, and sanctions are sort of, well, the only real sanction they could do, they could stop me doing any orthodontics, because
for some period of time, for 5 years,
possibly.
Let's say.
Yeah. Whatever. If they even stop me for a year, then that's practice over, isn't it? It's clinic done, because there's no way I can carry on what I'm doing with if they sanction me, you know.
Yeah, but then you could focus on YouTube. You could focus on YouTube at that point.
Yeah, I probably would.
Then you'd become a real threat to them. Mike. You'd be a man with nothing to lose.
Exactly. Then they could put sort of limit. The other sanction they can do is they could make me check all of my work with an orthodontist, either in house or out of house. So these are two things. I could have an orthodontist who I'd have to employ an orthodontist, because I don't run in a clinic which has an orthodontist. So I would have an employ. Well, I can't afford to employ an orthodontist. And even if I did, what's he going to say? He's going to go, no. All of this is useless. Yeah. So that's not going to work. So it's very difficult to sanction me at all. You either stop me doing what I'm doing for a limited or permanent basis, or you let me carry on. That's the only different.
But if they stop you
options
for a limited time, for you to come back, you're going to probably have to appear before a council, and you're going to have to kiss ass.
Oh yeah, then you kiss ass. Then you say why you realise the error of your ways, and you that's what Dad wouldn't do. Yeah. So they gave him, because they realised he hadn't been that bad, you see, and they weighed the evidence. We'll just give you a 1 year suspension. Then at the end of the year suspension, they went up and said, "Are you sorry about what you did?" What did Dad say? So he lost his license permanently, which was, you know, it would have been so useful if he hadn't lost his license, because he at least could have done something in the clinic here with me. He could at least supervised other people. He could have taught. He could have done other things. But you know how we go.
No.
You know,
now, what about, and your father's a legend, and we all love your father dearly. What about, Mike, moving to a more enlightened place and taking up practice there?
Well, the problem is that you have to retrain and you requalify wherever you go. So I could get I could probably go to Europe with a relative, you don't have to take exams. I could get recognized in Europe and move across to Europe. I could move across to New Zealand or Australia, and that's so Europe, because we had the European Union, and I think I could still do that now. The doors haven't completely closed. I could go to Australia and New Zealand, and I don't know about Canada. I'm not sure about Canada because that's the Commonwealth. But and I could go to Dubai and those places. I mean, lots of people who get struck off go to Dubai, even they're struck off, because they've got a completely different organisation and arrangement there.
You'd kill it in Dubai.
Yes, I'd kill it. But remember, that my problem here, Ron, is and this is what I'm finding, it is really hard to get the outcomes I want. Now, I know what my dream clinic would look like. You give me lots of millions of pounds, and I could do. You want really good body workers. You want, I could make a list of all the things I would want. You put that together, and I know I could cream it. But it's just, we've got a whole system that's going wrong. We're going from this to this, and I'm messing around in here, and that's really limited. I need to be looking at more of the body. I need to be getting into people's minds, homes, and consciousness so that we get them changed. But what Mewing has taught me, it's that when you're personally motivated, you will get a great result. And the problem we're treating on these kids, or even some of the teenagers who have no interest of changing, it's hard work to get change.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. I mean, everyone that I speak to and that I'm, connecting with American dentists is an adult, and they're all tough cases. And it's, it's brutal. It's working with, clay that's no longer moldable. It's hardened.
Yeah.
There's a lot of MARPI that pretty much everyone is doing MARPI now if they're an adult that I speak with, and people have sort of given up on the DNAs and the AGAs, and they're realizing that if they want to get significant changes, they've got to break bone.
Well, I think this goes to the most simple concept that we have two types of memory. We have muscle memory that we're all familiar with. We have structural memory. So the posture and function of your tongue, jaws, mouth, whatever, that you've had all your life has formed your structure. So that the most comfortable posture and function for you to have is that one that fits with your structure, that formed your structure. So in a way, your structure is informing your posture and function. And that leaves you in a really difficult trap. And of course, we've got other things. So the classic description I give is, most people, if they try to stand up straight and they really had good head posture, they're constricting their airway here. So then it's uncomfortable to do that. They've got the angel on one side that says, listen, Mike makes some sense, fits with everything else I've read, and I want to change. Tongue up, hold this. You've got the devil on the other side that says, breathe. Now, what's going to win out? Because I can keep my mind's focus on one thing at a time, and usually for not very long. And the common comment I get from people who are mewing is, oh, I'm mewing all the time. I go, you sure you're mewing all the time? They go, yeah. And I go, well, why are your lips open? No, they're not. And I go, they were just a second ago. And they go, no, they weren't. And the thing is that whenever they're thinking, they're doing it. But most of the time, you're not thinking about it. Yeah. And that gives you a real bias in what you think you've achieved.
And you have no idea what's happening when you're asleep. Lord knows that's when it really falls apart.
Yeah. Well, that exactly. But we are right on this edge of modern technology where we can achieve so much. Yeah. So we can get reminders helping us. With some sort of device that just reminds you to keep your mouth together. My father saying he reverse engineered a device to stop you using muscle. So the physios would have these devices that would make an alarm when you use that muscle to try and stop you using the muscle. He reverse engineered it, so he stuck it like with a sticker on the muscle, and you had to maintain a certain level of tension or the alarm would go off. Yeah, it worked, but it was a bit fiddly, and the technology back then wasn't as good as it is now. So we're ready for those things. We've also got much better clinical techniques, like these MSE has started this explosion in adult expansion.
Yeah, what do you think of the MSE?
Okay, I've been doing some MSE. It's much more difficult and technique sensitive. I mean, when I'm using expansion with removable appliances in a young person, I rarely have any problems. It almost goes like a dream. MSE, so many cases head a little bit asymmetrically. So many cases the screws slip and you've got to go back and start again. And it's hard work. And I would consider myself a good clinician, but MSE is much, much harder work. I'm going to carry on, seeing if I can get better, seeing if I can tweak this to get better outcomes. And as soon as this case is out, I want to go out around the world looking at people, not just MSE. There's so many little pockets of great innovation and great ideas going on that we need to look into, because there's people there who have got great ideas. There's stones there under which they're great ideas, and that's one of the missions I want to go and do and to bring this knowledge and information out, but to try and help people change. Now I've put, as I said, once you get going on a mission like this, you don't stop. I want the answers.
Yeah. Do you see yourself possibly leaving a clinical role and engaging in a full-time teaching role or influencing role? Is that a possibility for you?
I want to have a mixed role. I don't ever, I love working with patients. Not quite as much as I love lecturing. That I think is probably hang around. Well, I'll have to take this one.
Sure.
Hello? Hello? I'll do 5 minutes and I'll come home. I said I'd come home at 1:45. 5 minutes and I'll be coming home, okay? Okay, bye. That's my daughter. Okay, Ron, the next thing we need to go on is how people can help. What can we do to get moving?
Sure. Yeah, well, why don't you tell us, Mike, directly? I know that you have a Patreon page that is chock full of fantastic information. One thing I would recommend anyone watching this information to do is to become a patron and support you in that way. That's a way that they can help you and also get some help for themselves. What other ways can people support you?
So also I want to do is I want to get a discussion going on Patreon about, so if you come to Patreon, it's a good place to go to offer help, because I know if you've gone to Patreon, you've made the effort of paying $5 a month. I can then say to you, you want to join the cause. Now, I've never started a revolution before in my life, but we need a revolution. And I think the type of thing that I think would be really useful would be people independently going out there, taking this message and just going to different websites, going to these forums where they discuss things and saying to them, look, have you seen this? Going to telling friends, spreading the word, but really actively doing this. We'd love to get more information up on things like Wikipedia, and we would love to get, I'd love to get a lot of stories of people in. But to do these lower level things, I'm going to need some organisers. I'm going to need some people who are happy to organise, because I would love to gain we'd love to have a great history of people who have been affected negatively, either with health or with some good facial images of them being affected, because that helps people understand why we're doing this. I'd love to get people together to help with social media campaigns, but to organise that, I don't have any time at the moment. So what I really need, the most important thing to do at the moment is people who are organisers who would like to contact you, and you can then say to me, well, we've got these organisers who have got some spare time on their hands, what would you like them to do? And then we can still make a plan, and we can come up with a concept. We're trying to get a campaign page up. I was hoping to be. I wanted to be here 6 months ago, but this is a problem when you've got so much work. You feel so goddamn depressed all the time. It's really, really hard to do anything. This is how ExxonMobil or the big drug companies destroy people. If they don't like you, whether you're right or wrong, they start throwing legal cases at you. And there is nothing you can do when you start coming, because it takes all your money and it takes all your time. And then they just throw another legal case. And then when I try to go back to practicing dentistry after the court case, I suddenly get a letter from my insurer saying, well, considering you've just spent a lot of money on this, we think you're high risk, so your insurance is going to be 100 grand a year. And then you can't afford to practice. That's what goes on behind the scenes. That's what went on. Exactly, that's what happened to the first people who were saying that amalgam was wrong and you should stop using amalgam. They were destroyed, all of them. And they're destroyed, because you couldn't afford to insure yourself because you'd had so many allegations against you. You were completely innocent, but it didn't matter, did it?
Yeah, it's the system at its absolute worst.
Yeah, just destroy someone. And the damage it causes to my family life, my clinical life. When you're in the decade of your 40s and your 50s is the decades when you're supposed to earn the money to send your kids to school or university, to buy a house, to do nice holidays. I live a student plus lifestyle. I ask around if anyone's got a chalet I can use for holidays. I generally try not to take holidays because I can't afford to go. I can't afford to take the time off work. Everything we do is cheap. I don't go out much. We went out last night. I spent £100 on a meal for the family. Well, I'm reeling still with that because that's, way above the weekly budget.
Yes, the lawsuits are killing you, Mike. The lawsuits are killing you.
Yeah, lawsuits are killing me. But I work I can't work any harder. And I'm right at that point of burnout all the time. I only keep going because I've got this passion to make the world a better place. And finish the work of my father. It's taken us 2 generations to get this far. We just need to get it over the line now.
Well, you've started the revolution already, Mike. There's already a whole generation of young people out there who are looking to take the torch and run with it. So
well, let's get together. Let's get together, because if you want answers, if you want me to help you or me to uncover the answers, that's what I'm going to do. But I've got to get moving. I've got to get these people off my back. We've got to get I see people giving £1 million to a good cause. Well, hello, I'm a great cause. And so many, how many adults are going to die 10 or 20 years early because of craniofacial dystrophy causing sleep apnea, and they've got no idea how to reverse it. All these CPAPs and these mandibular advancement splits are probably making the situation worse. And here I am, yes, all you people about to die young, donate me money because I can find you answers faster and better than I think anyone else. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, hopefully we've got the Mewing app coming out. God knows how this will do. It's been years of delay. I guess I'm not an app maker. And I've got all this other stuff on my life. But I just hope this can come out soon.
What movie is
Mewing app. The Mewing app.
Oh, the Mewing app.
The Mewing app. Movie, they're bringing something out on Netflix. So we've had a proper Netflix team following us, or proper team, commissioned by Netflix, following us for the last year and a bit. So come February, that should go out. And of course, then that will release me to being into other documentaries, because quite a few people have approached me with documentaries that clearly I couldn't do because I was under contractual obligation. But I don't know,
when's this whole legal mess going to be over, Mike? When are you going to be able to sleep at night again?
Starts 15th of November, and it runs for 4 weeks. So it's finished in mid-ish, I think the 12th, or the 10th of December. This is 4 weeks. people only get, murder cases are only usually 2 weeks.
Well, look, regardless of what happens, Mike, and to some degree, what happens is out of all of our control. To some degree,
yes, to some degree. Well,
it's
three people, someone who's dental, someone who's a sort of a side discipline of dentistry, like a hygienist or a therapist, and someone who's a complete layperson, they are going to decide my fate. And they're also going to decide the fate of a science. And I feel they're going to decide the fate of the health of the people of the planet.
I hope so. I hope that the court case ends up backfiring on the people who are doing this to you, and I hope it ends up being a forum for the truth to be voiced loud and clear for the world to see. And but most of all, though, Mike, I can see you in a tremendous amount of distress. Most of all, I just want this all to be over. I know that regardless of how this turns out, whether you win, whether you lose, or whether something in between, it's going to be over, and you're going to be able to just go back to living a normal life, whether you're practicing or not. You're going to be fine. You're going to survive, and you're going to have all this newfound freedom, all of this mental bandwidth to just be able to do whatever you want to do. And that's the most important thing. I just want to see you be healthy and happy, Mike. Personally.
Thank you very much, Ron. That's really good. But then I know that even when this is over, I've got to raise those funds. I've got to raise those millions of pounds to get the spotlight of modern medical research to focus on this problem, because that's what you all need.
Yeah. So if anyone who's listening to this feels inspired to work with Mike in some way, whether it's through some sort of social media campaign or some sort of background computer-based work done remotely from any part of the world, you can contact me through my blog, JawHacks.com, the contact form, or presumably you could contact Mike directly through Patreon.
Go through Patreon. I have more mails every day than we can cope with already.
So I could imagine that participating in something like this could not only be a fantastic opportunity for you to get to know Dr. Mew and to network with him, but also as a sort of a resume builder on your own journey. Perhaps you see yourself going to dental school one day and being part of some sort of social movement within dental research would be a fantastic resume builder. So there's everyone wins. So let me know if you're interested, and I will connect you with Dr. Mew.
Cool. Mike,
thank you.
Listen, run.
I know you got to run. You got to get home to your beautiful family. I appreciate your time, and I just wish you all the best. Just know that regardless of how heavy this burden is, you have a whole army of young people out there who you've already changed their lives. If you died right now, if they came in and executed you on the spot, you've already made 10 lifetimes worth of contributions to making the world a better place, probably more like 10,000.
Okay, well, let's get this army working. We want this army for the truth. That's what I want. I want the truth, the whole truth, and no dogma.
I'm with you, Mike. Let's do it.